Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on what time of day you're reviewing this. This is Module Week 9, Agendas and Outcomes. It's a very quick week with a lot going on in it, so while it may seem like this lecture is short, that's to give you plenty of time to sort of wrap up the assignment that we're going to discuss and then begin the peer review process. I'm going to be honest, I've never used the peer review process through the learning management system. I've set it up. It should work. If it does not, by Wednesday or Thursday, if I don't start seeing those things happening, that will tell me something's wrong. I will go in and manually set that. But for now, we're going to try to let the automated system kind of do what it does and see how that works, right? So we will be wrapping up part 4 of the recommendation report, which is the conclusion. This consists of the final recommendations in the conclusion section, and also you going back and now doing the executive summary draft. We've talked about that draft in the module for part 1. You can review that in last week's module. If you remember, I put 1, 2, and 3 there. I'm not going to put all 4 of them in this week. I think I'm just going to go ahead and put the 4th one for this week. Basically, we're putting together the recommendation report draft for revision. So if you're going, I don't know what this looks like, I'm afraid I'm going to lose points, there isn't points to lose here. This is to get it all together and to get it peer reviewed. Again, that will be anonymous peer review, so your name will not be on the top of it. I don't think that should make any. I don't think it should be a problem for anyone, but let me know if there's an actual issue with that. There is no current readings for this week. Again, this is just a production week, but I would like you to reference Module 8 readings if you need review. If you're sort of like wanting to look at what one looks like again, remember one of the samples I provided, one of the readings, has an example of sort of what that looks like in a very rough form. Submissions of the completed recommendation report, rough draft for peer review will be required no later than Monday, November 8th. So I've actually set that back till the following Monday. So next week, we will be doing something a little different. On top of you working on this to do the peer review, I'm going to set up a meeting with you guys. I will announce when that is on Monday to do a Zoom or Blue Jeans meeting. We'll see what the best time is for most people. Maybe I'll set up a discussion board and let you guys have a day or two to respond into it, and then I'll set that up. I'm leaning towards a Wednesday, Thursday timetable, maybe a Friday if that works for everybody. But you don't have to participate. You don't have to be there. But I think it'll be a great opportunity for us to talk and everyone to kind of get on the same page. So that's the plan for next week. Again, the peer review is set up through the LMS and it is automated, which means I don't get to pick your reviewers. The system does, and it's anonymous, and there are 2 reviewers per document. So with that said, let's look over to the actual assignment. So recommendations and completions is part 4. For this final element of the recommendation report, you should compose a conclusion based on the following. Part 4, recommendations. Recommendations are arguably the most important part of the analysis phase. This is where you'll suggest specific interventions or strategies to address the issues and constraints identified by you in parts 1 through 3. Recommendation report should directly respond to key findings arrived at through data collection and analysis. Now, obviously, because of the constraints of the class, some of that data collection and analysis can be faked, fudged, created to only fit the parameters of this particular assignment. A process of prioritization is essential for narrowing down the findings, so you should be able to do that as you sort of look at what you have and decide which findings are most relevant. You should come with more than one, so if you only have one finding, one thing coming out, you can fake a little bit. Recommendations should be developed that align with the most important findings that you come up with. Reviewing previous assessment reports may be helpful at this stage. This is more, if you think about this paragraph, this is more like if you were doing this in the wild, if you were doing this as a professional writer in field, think about what kind of documents you might look at. Again, so like if you're talking about putting in a new position at your company, you might look at other positions on Indeed and see what they've done and what that looks like, and kind of, again, just do some research and have a look at it. You may find that there's already recommendations that have been done, and so you might find an answer that works, that is a finding for you to learn, but this will help you learn what strategies have been recommended in the past to address specific constraints in other industries. At this point, recommendation should be one sentence, succinct, and start with an action verb: create, establish, fund, facilitate, coordinate, etc. They should use a SMART formula, which means, if you're thinking about how you're going to write this, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. and each recommendation should be followed by a few sentences of explanatory text. So you should have one simple sentence that concisely defines what you're talking about doing, and it should have an action verb, and it should meet the SMART formula for that sentence. Then each recommendation should have several sentences that sort of support what you're talking about. In addition to being SMART, recommendations should also be feasible. Now, you'll note that feasibility is not part of the recommendation of SMART format, but it is part of the final consideration for recommending alongside timing, right? So if it's something that is doable, it's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, realistic, timely, and meets a timing constraint, you can actually offer solutions to identify problems which are sequential, building upon intermediate steps, scaffolding. Teams, you can also decide as a team to sometimes frame recommendations like a team would for near-term or long-term goals. So if you're thinking about your recommendation, think about how that might require a team to make it happen and what that timetable might look like, right? Recommendations are typically summarized again in the executive summary and presented in full within specific technical sections, which we're already talking about in this fourth part. So we're trying to keep this simple by making it 4 parts. In a bigger sense, recommendation reports can be structured a little differently. They can have technical sections that break up even those 4 sections a little bit more. But usually they have short lists of bullet points followed by finding summarization. In some reports, there may be a section at the end of the document that consolidates recommendations and highlights the linkages across core areas, service delivery, health financing, etc., prior to the conclusion section. So, in summary, your considerations for lost my train of thought there. For prioritizing recommendations should follow these criteria. Is it feasible? Is there potential opposition? I.e., if you're talking about opening a position but it's someone else's job, would that create opposition within the company, within the agency that you're talking about? Does it fill an existing gap or need? What is the likely impact of your recommendations? Are resources available? Individuals, expertise, funding? Does it require some kind of policy reform within the company or industry that you're working in? What is the estimated time frame to implement your recommendations? And does it advance gender equity? If so, how? Those type of questions still need to be thought about as well. So if that's relevant to your solution, i.e., you're trying to hire someone for a specific position to do something to fix a problem within your company, the question you're going to have to ask is this a position that should be, is there gender equity involved in it, right? Will it remove a critical barrier or accelerate an opportunity to achieve an outcome of interest? Or will it just simply generate an unintended consequence? At this stage, you should be able to go back and add the executive summary, as I've said, which was discussed at the beginning of Part 1. This section, Part 4, should consist of 3 to 4 total pages and does not require double spacing. You can use examples provided in Module 8, Part 3, the readings, in particular the OER, through the reading section to finish the rough draft of this section. It does not need to be polished. It does not need to be complete. It needs to be put all together so that all 4 parts are in one Word document or one docx document. Don't do this in a PDF. And then you will upload it here, obviously, to the assignment Dropbox so that it will be set for peer review. I don't know how that actually works, again. So we'll see what the automated, I don't know the back end is what I'm saying. Because it's automated and anonymous, I won't get to see it until it's working. I won't even get to see it, I don't think, because of the anonymous switch that is put in for this. So I won't know who graded or who peer reviewed what. But I know that there will be 2 reviews per recommendation report. So this assignment is worth 400 points. It's worth a lot. It does. I'm adding the rubric right now as we speak. I'm going to use, so I always use the exact same rubric for everything, because while it's labeled genre analysis, it's very simple. That rubric will be composition conveys appropriate tone, formality, and difficulty of language. Information is organized logically. Writer addresses major purpose of letters and appropriate audience, and reader understands message. The development is main points well developed with high quality and quantity support and reveal a high degree of critical thinking. Grammar mechanics is that the essay is free of distraction, spelling, punctuation, and grammatical errors. absent of fragments, comma splices, and run-ons. Style here, it says shows outstanding style going beyond usual college level. And then format, you can read these. So when you're doing the peer review, and I need to change the point total here. So let's do this. I want to make sure that this comes out to 400 points for you guys, so that as we develop, you know what, I'm going to change this on the fly with you guys and show you how grading sometimes works, because I want to make sure that the peer review element is what you get the most points out of. So turning in the work is going to get you points, right? Let's go 100, 70. But the peer review, I want to make sure you understand the value of it. So I'm making sure I'm actually adding points to it as we go. You'll note I'm not putting a lot of points into grammar and spelling, because that is something that can be fixed, in my opinion, through spell check, and you should be doing that. So you can now see its total points is 400. So, excuse me. What this means is that I would like you to use this when you're doing your peer review and decide whether you think that they're meeting these criteria. Once you're there, and this has been updated now, done. So for the recommendation report peer review, you will use this criteria, these rubrics. You will decide, are they in the middle, are they above average, are they receiving full marks, are they missing the mark? These are very general, and I think that sets the stakes pretty low for the peer review and doesn't require you to decide whether their idea is good, bad, or indifferent, but instead puts the onus, the emphasis of what you're trying to help them review on these 5 key elements, 6 key elements, right? Format, I'm not going to worry so much about. If you think about what it looks like, is there margins, is there decent spacing, does it look neat and correct? There is no model for what this looks like perfectly. I'm not asking you for perfection. Again, this is a rough draft submission. So I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to cover this week on this. Again, this is a 2-week project. Please use the time to both get the final section done, uploaded with the other parts and an executive summary rough draft, and start the peer review process. With that said, I hope you have a good week. If you have any questions, please reach out to me and let me know. I can be reached via my cell. I can reach via email. I would prefer that you, as I said in the syllabus, that you contact me through the inbox, because that does email me directly versus emailing me through my direct email, because then I have no way of linking it back to what class you're in, that type of thing. So with all that said, I hope you have a good week.